everyone. Thanks for joining on time. Very good. Proud of. Remember the intro. These are designed to educate you. Get yourself IELTS B2 ready. They will not get you. Do that yourselves with hard work, but anyway we can. They're helpful. Use of your time. Always try and have a pen and paper ready. Handy. Some of them in tests for you to do. Practice, and again, apologies for to share screen. Thanks.
Did you know that in IELTS listening, half of the questions are usually filling the blanks? And then there are always some multiple choice questions and either a map or a matching information task. Over the years of studying them, I found some tips and strategies that can make them a little bit easier for you, so you could answer more questions correctly and get a higher score. Get your pen and paper ready. It's Asia. Let's get started. IELTS listening is the same for both academic and general training students. Every test begins with a set of fill in the blanks questions. Our task is from Cambridge Practice Tests number 18, the latest book. And these tests are just like the real exams. And actually, any recent book from number 15 and up will do. There are some free practice tests too, and all of them are linked in my IELTS study plan. You can download it in the description box below. It's completely free. So let's have a look at the task together, and I'll share a few tips with you, and then you try to solve the task, okay? Write one word and or a number for each answer. So make sure you don't write 2 words or more. When looking at the task, try to anticipate the answers. For example, home address, street. So the name of the street will be spelled out for you. Heard about us from a. Note the article a is already there, so you don't need to include it in your answer. Generally, don't include articles in your answers. If an article is needed, it will be in the statement. If there is no article, then the answer is either plural, cats, or uncountable, fish. Spelling counts. If you make a spelling mistake, you won't get a point. Both British and American spelling are acceptable. This part is usually a dialogue, often a telephone conversation. So now try to answer questions 1 to 4.
Hello, Wayside Camera Club. Breeder speaking.
Oh, hello. My name's Dan, and I'd like to join your club.
That's great, Dan. We have an application form. Would you like to complete it over the phone? Then you can ask any questions you might have.
Oh, yes, thanks.
OK. So what's your family name?
It's Green. Dan Green.
So can I take your email address?
Yes, it's dan1068@market.com.
Thanks. And what about your home address?
Well, I'm about 10 miles away from your club in Peacetown. I live in a house there.
OK. So what's the house number and street?
It's 52 Marrowfield Street.
Is that MARROWFIELD?
That's right.
And that's Peacetown, you said?
Uh-huh.
So how did you hear about our club? Did you look on the internet?
I usually do that, but this time, well, I was talking to a relative the other day and he suggested it.
Oh, Is he a member too?
He belongs to another club, but he'd heard good things about yours.
Okay. So, what do you hope to get from joining?
Well, one thing that really interests me is the competitions that you have. I enjoy entering those.
Right. Anything else?
Well, I also like to socialise with other photographers.
That's great. So, what type of membership would you like?
What are the options?
It's £30 a year for full membership, or £20 a year if you're an associate.
I think I'll go for the full membership then.
That's a good idea, because you can't vote in meetings with an associate membership.
Now, the second part is pretty unusual. In IELTS listening, it's almost always no more than one word or one word and a number. But I found no more than 2 words. Don't thank me. When you have a little table like this, first of all, read the table title, photography competitions, and then the title of each column, title of the competition, instructions, feedback to Dan. Now you know what to expect. Then look through the rest of the information. Ready to answer the questions?
If I could just find out a bit more about you.
Okay.
So, you said you wanted to compete. Have you ever won any photography competitions?
Not yet, but I have entered 3 in the past.
Oh, that's interesting. So, why don't you tell me something about those? Let's start with the first one.
Well, the theme was entitled Domestic Life.
I see. So, it had to be something related to the home?
Yeah, I chose to take a photo of a family sitting round the dinner table having a meal. And, I didn't win, but I did get some feedback
Oh, what did the judges say?
that it was too busy as a picture.
Aha. So, it was the composition of the picture that they criticised?
That's right. And once they'd told me that, I could see my mistake.
So, what was the theme of the second competition?
Well, my university was on the coast, and that area gets a lot of beautiful sunsets. So that was the theme.
Oh, sunsets. That's a great theme.
Yes, the instructions were to capture the clouds as well. It couldn't just be blue sky and a setting sun.
Sure, because they give you all those amazing pinks and purples.
Yeah, and I thought I'd done that well, but the feedback was that I should have waited a bit longer to get the shot.
I see. So the timing wasn't right.
Yes, I took it too soon, basically. And then the third competition I entered was called Animal Magic.
Well, that's a difficult subject.
I know. I had to take hundreds of shots.
I'm sure, because animals move all the time.
That's what we had to show. There had to be some movement in the scene. I got a great shot of a fox in the end, but I took it at night and, well, I suspected that it was a bit dark, which is what I was told.
Well, Dan, you seem to be really keen, and we'd be delighted to have you in our club. I'm sure we can help with all those areas that you've outlined.
Thanks, that's great.
Done? Great. We'll check all the answers at the end. And the next task is a map. It may feel confusing at first, but I think if you know where to look, we can make it more manageable. First of all, read the elements on the map. Start with the title, Minster Park. In the center of the park, there is a lily pond. Then we see a number of gates. West Gate, South Gate, East Gate. To the north of the park, there is a river. You may also be given directions to the north, to the south, or in the southeast corner. Look for a starting point, usually an entrance, and usually located at the bottom of the map. My bet is on the south gate, but you should anticipate but always listen to the recording. And there is a reason why we're looking at the map before the questions. All IELTS listening questions come in order. You will hear about question number 15, Statue of Diana Gosforth, then 16, wooden sculptures, and so on. A couple of tips before you hear the recording. If you missed an answer, move on to the next question. Don't try to find it while the recording is still playing. You only miss more answers. There is some time at the end when you can come back to any unanswered questions and cross out used options on the map. It makes it easier to see what's left. Ready to solve the task?
If you look at this map, you'll see the familiar outline of the park, with the river forming the northern boundary, and a gate in each of the other 3 walls. The statue of Diana Gosforth has been moved. It used to be close to the south gate, but it's now immediately to the north of the lily pond, almost in the centre of the park, which makes it much more visible. There's a new area of wooden sculptures, which are on the riverbank, where the path from the east gate makes a sharp bend. There are 2 areas that are particularly intended for children. The playground has been enlarged and improved, and that's between the river and the path that leads from the pond to the river. Then there's a new maze, a circular series of paths separated by low hedges. That's near the west gate. You go north from there towards the river and then turn left to reach it. There have been tennis courts in the park for many years, and they've been doubled, from 4 to 8. They're still in the southwest corner of the park, where there's a right-angle bend in the path. Something else I'd like to mention is the new fitness area. This is right next to the lily pond on the same side as the west gate. Now, as you're all gardeners, I'm sure you'll like to hear about the plants that have been chosen for the park.
A lot of directions, right? To the north of the pond, in the southwest corner. You should definitely get confident with those. Now, maps and other tasks often have what we call distractors. Incorrect answers mentioned. Sometimes you will hear the distractor first and then the correct answer. For example, it used to be but it's now Sometimes the correct answer comes first. We decided to leave the library although we thought about moving it Only some, actually a minority of IELTS tests have a map. A more popular task used instead is matching information. This task has a box with options and questions underneath. First of all, read the statement at the top because it gives you the context. What information does the speaker give about each of the following areas of the museum? Next, instead of studying the map like we did previously, study the options. I mean, read each option carefully to remember what it's about. Options are usually paraphrased, so look for the same meaning, not the exact words. Cross out used options. A really helpful thing to remember is that questions again come in order. They're not paraphrased. So you can easily follow number 15, 4 seasons, then number 16, farmhouse, etc. Hopefully giving you enough time to find the right answers. Pause the video now to read the options and then answer the questions. Ready?
I'd like to tell you about the different areas of the museum. Just inside and outside the main gallery, we have an area called 4 Seasons. Here, you can watch a 4-minute animation of a woodland scene. It was designed especially for the museum by a group of young people on a film studies course, and it's beautiful. Children absolutely love it, but then so do adults. The main gallery is called Town and Country. It includes a photographic collection of prize-winning sheep and shepherds. Leaving town and country, you enter farmhouse kitchen, which is, well, self-explanatory. Here, we have the oldest collection of equipment for making butter and cheese in the country. And this morning, a specialist cheesemaker will be giving demonstrations of how it's produced. You may even get to try some. After that, you can go in two directions. To the right is a staircase that takes you up to a landing from where you can look down on the galleries. To the left is a room called A Year on the Farm. There is lots of seating here, as sometimes we use the room for school visits, so it's a good place to stop for a rest. If you're feeling competitive, you can take our memory test, in which you answer questions about things you've seen in the museum. The next area is called Wagon Walk. This contains farm carts from nearly every part of the country. It's surprising how much regional variation there was. Beside the carts are display boards with information about each one. The carts are old and fragile, so we ask you to keep your children close to you and ensure they don't climb on the carts. From Wagon Walk, you can either make your way back to reception or go out into the garden, or even go back to take another look in the galleries. In the far corner of the garden is Bees Are Magic, but we're redeveloping this area, so you can't visit that at the moment. You can still buy our honey in the shop, though. Finally, there's the pond, which contains all kinds of interesting wildlife. There are baby ducks that are only a few days old, as well as tiny frogs. The pond isn't deep, and there is a fence around it, so it's perfectly safe for children.
In this one, there was no map to follow, but the type of task is still quite similar, right? And the better you know the options in advance, the easier it is to answer the questions. Now let's talk about the type of questions that most students voted for as the most difficult, multiple choice. These questions may be more or less difficult depending on where in the test you find them. I've selected the more difficult ones for you. There are two types. First, you have 5 options and 2 correct answers. Then 3 options and 1 answer. Each option will be discussed. Answers are determined by certain details. The only way to answer is to read all the options before the recording starts playing, but there is not enough time for that. So what you can do is use the time for revision from the previous section to read these questions. Underline keywords. Each option is only discussed once, so cross out incorrect answers. And be prepared to hear a dialogue, usually between 2 students who may have different opinions or change their minds, so look out for that. Again, pause the video, read the questions and then answer them. Let's do it.
So now I want you to discuss the lesson we've just been watching on the video and think about the ways in which origami can be a useful educational tool. Can you all work with the person sitting next to you?
I had no idea that such a simple thing like folding squares of paper to make the shape of something like a bird could be such an amazing tool. It's made me see origami in a whole new light.
I know. It was interesting to see the educational skills the children were developing by doing origami. On the video, you could see them really listening hard to make sure they did all the steps in the right order to make the bird.
That's right. In this lesson, they were working individually, but it would also be interesting to see if the children could work out how to make something simple without being given any direction. That would help with building teamwork as well.
Yes, but much more of a challenge. One thing that really stood out for me was that the children were all having fun while being taught something new.
Which is a key aim of any lesson with this age group. And although these kids had no problems with folding the paper, With younger children, you could do origami to help practice fine motor skills.
Absolutely. I think one reason why the origami activity worked so well in this class was that the teacher was well prepared.
Right. I think it would have taken me ages to prepare examples showing each of the steps involved in making the bird, but that was a really good idea. The children could see what they were aiming for, and much better for them to be able to hold something rather than just looking at pictures.
Those physical examples supported her verbal explanations really well.
It's strange that origami isn't used more widely. Why do you think that is?
Well, teachers may just feel it's not that appealing to children who are used to doing everything on computers, especially boys, even if they're aware of the benefits.
Oh, I don't know. It's no different to any other craft activity. I bet it's because so many teachers are clumsy like me.
That's true. Too much effort required if you're not good with your hands.
Well, anyway, I think we should try it out in our maths teaching practice with Year 3. I can see using origami is a really engaging way of reinforcing children's knowledge of geometric shapes, like they were doing in the video. But I think it would also work really well for presenting fractions, which is coming up soon.
Good idea. That's something most of the kids in that class might struggle with. Origami would also be good practice for using symmetry, but I think they did that last term.
OK, well, let's try and get some ideas together and plan the lesson next week.
Okay, on we go to part 4. The last set of questions is of the same type as the first, filling the blanks. But the context is more challenging, a lecture. The task is divided into sections, like in our example. Pay attention to the subheaders. They can help you navigate. You'll hear about Hugo's novel, then his early career, exile from France, and finally his house. Try to predict the answers. Some key words are repeated while others are paraphrased. Pause the video to read the questions and then answer them.
The person I've chosen to talk about is the French writer Victor Hugo. Many people have heard of him because his novel, Les Miserables, which he wrote in 1862, is famous around the world. It became a stage musical in the 1980s, and a film version was also released in 2012. So some of us, I'm sure, have a pretty general idea of the plot, but we know much less about the author. Today, I'm going to provide a little more insight into this talented man, and I'm going to talk particularly about the home he had on the island of Guernsey in the British Channel Islands. But first, his early career. As I've said, he was a writer. He was at the height of his career in Paris, and he was very highly regarded by his colleagues. As far as literature was concerned, he was the leading figure of the Romantic movement. However, as well as being a literary genius, he also gave many speeches about issues like the level of poverty in his society. He felt very strongly about this and about other areas where change was needed, like education. This kind of outspoken criticism was not well liked by the rulers of France, and eventually the Emperor, Napoleon III, told Victor Hugo to leave Paris and not return. In other words, he sent him into exile. So Victor Hugo was forced to reside in other parts of Europe. Guernsey was actually his third place of exile, and he landed there in 1855. He produced a lot while on Guernsey, including Les Miserables, and to do this, he had to spend a great deal of time in the home that he had there. This was a property that he bought using the money he'd made in France from the publication of a collection of his poetry. It was the only property he ever owned, and he was very proud of it. The property Victor Hugo bought on Guernsey was a large 5-storey house in the capital town of St. Peter Port, and he lived there for 15 years,
returning to France in 1870 when Napoleon's empire collapsed. He decorated and furnished each level or floor of the house in unique and wonderful ways, and many people consider the inside of the house to be a work of art. Today, it's a museum that attracts 200,000 visitors a year. He lived in the house with his family, and portraits of its members still hang in rooms on the ground floor, along with drawings that he did during his travels that he felt were important to him. In other ground floor rooms, there are huge tapestries that he would have designed and loved. The walls are covered in dark wood panelling that Victor Hugo created himself using wooden furniture that he bought in the market. The items were relatively inexpensive, and he used them to create intricate carvings. They gave an atmosphere on the lower level that was shadowy and rather solemn. On the next level of the house, there are 2 impressive lounges where he entertained his guests. One lounge has entirely red furnishings, such as sofas and wall coverings, and the other blue. There's a strong Chinese influence in these areas in things like the wallpaper pattern and the lamps, which he would have made himself by copying original versions. His library, where he left many of his favourite books, forms the hallway to the 3rd floor and was a comfortable area where he could relax and enjoy his afternoons. And then, at the very top of the house, there's a room called the Lookout. Called that because it looks out over the harbour. In contrast to the rather dark lower levels, it's full of light and was like a glass office where he would write until lunchtime, often at his desk. So, Victor Hugo was a man of many talents, but he was also true to his values. While living in his house on Guernsey, he entertained many other famous writers, but he also invited a large group of local children from the deprived areas of the island to dinner once a week. What's more, he served them their food, which was an extraordinary gesture for the time period. In 1927, the house was owned by his relatives, and they decided to donate it to the city of Paris. It has since been restored using photographs from the period, and, as I mentioned earlier, is now a museum that is open to the public.
Okay, how did it go? Here is one thing to keep in mind. Don't leave questions unanswered. Marks for incorrect answers are not deducted, so make your best guess. You have some time at the end of the test when you can do it. 10 minutes in a paper-based test and 2 minutes if you take IELTS on computer. Now, before I show you the answers, I've also prepared for you the audio scripts. You'll see them one after another. If you find any mistakes, I recommend reading the script to figure out why you made this particular mistake. This can help you avoid similar errors next time. Here are all the audio scripts from today's lesson if you need to come back to them. And here are the answers. There were 37 questions today, and in the real test, you're going to have 40, of course. If you've noticed that certain types of questions were more difficult for you, I have detailed video lessons on each type of question we looked into today. And if you download my free IELTS study plan, it can help you prepare for your exam, for each section of your exam, and that's where you can find links to all the resources as well. Thank you so much for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. Bye!
Are you ready to boost your IELTS listening band score? In this video, we're going to look at the tips, tricks, and strategies that you can use to improve your English listening skills and get a higher band score. We'll review the test format and then focus on practical things that you can do today to get started. By the way, my name's Tom, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Let's begin with a quick review of the listening test format so you know exactly what to expect. And then we'll get into our tips, tricks, and strategies. The listening test takes about 30 minutes and contains 4 parts, each with a different set of questions. There are 10 questions per part, which makes a total of 40 questions. There will be a brief pause so you can read the questions and check your answers. If you're taking IELTS on paper, you'll write your answers on the question paper while listening. And at the end, there is a dedicated 10-minute window for you to transfer your responses to the official answer sheet. If you're taking IELTS on computer, you have 2 minutes at the end to check your answers. You'll hear a range of accents, including British, North American, Australian, and New Zealand. More about that later. Don't forget, each recording will be played only once, so you really have to pay close attention. All right, now that we know the format, let's give you some strategies to ace that test. Key skills 1, active listening. Successful listening is more than just hearing the words. It's about actively engaging with the audio to interpret meaning, identifying key points, and answering questions accurately. Now, there are a few ways that you can do this. You'll want to read the questions before the listening begins to prepare yourself for what's about to come. And this can be done actively by highlighting key information. It will help you identify what to listen out for. Let's have a look at an example. So for this task, I'd want to highlight the task instructions, so complete notes. Then I'd highlight how many words are required for each gap. No more than 1 word number. We'll go into this in more depth later. What's the topic? Furniture for sale. Okay, and then move down to the notes and what we're specifically looking for. So the color, drawers, height, condition, and price. This should start to get your minds prepared for the information we're listening out for. Key skills 2, predict answers in gap fill exercises. Another useful thing to do before the listening begins is to scan the questions, and where you find spaces, predict what kind of answers might fit in them. As we said before, check the instructions at the beginning of the task to see how many words should fit in each space. It might be 1 word or no more than 3 words. This will help you figure out what you're looking for. In this example, it says, write no more than 2 words and or a number. For example, in question 1, 10 to 2 would be incorrect because it's 3 words, but 150 would be correct because it's a number. So make sure you stay within the word limit. The next thing you need to do with gap fill exercises is identify the part of speech needed for that space. Is it a noun you're listening out for, or it could be a verb? Let's have a look at the first space. Express train leaves at In this space, we're looking for a time, like 9:30 or 2:15. The next line says, nearest station is On this occasion, we're looking for a name, so it'll be a noun we're listening out for. Remember, it'll be no more than 2 words long. Preparing yourself for what to expect will really help when you're listening and should help you identify the key information more easily. Key skills 3, take notes and stay alert. As part of your active listening, you should be jotting down keywords or phrases that seem important as you go. The act of writing will help focus your mind on the task and make sure you don't lose concentration. This can be a huge problem for students who maybe aren't used to listening to English speech for a long time. In this day and age, we all struggle to focus on one thing, and that's made even harder when it's not your first language. We'll look at strategies to help with this later in the video. Key skills 4, recognizing synonyms and paraphrasing. A skill that's really going to elevate your band score is being able to identify synonyms or paraphrasing. The test might change keywords in the question or use synonyms or paraphrasing in the answer. A synonym is a word that holds the same meaning as another word, so happy and cheerful or hard and difficult. So why is it important to recognize synonyms? Well, you need to be aware of these variations so that you don't miss the answer. Let's take this example. The question has succeed academically, but both words might be replaced with synonyms in the recording. Replacing succeed, we might hear flourish, thrive, do well, or even achieve success. For academically, we could hear educationally, studies, at university, or at school. So you have to be alert and aware when listening. It's an area of preparation that you can really work on before your listening test. Develop your vocabulary knowledge so that you'll be able to identify and recognize synonyms when you hear them. Just a couple of things I want to mention before we move on to improving your listening. Make sure you check your answers carefully at the end, particularly your spelling. If you've written because, not because, you'll lose marks. Don't leave any answers blank. If you don't know, have a guess. If it's multiple choice, you can play a little game of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in your head. Use your 50-50 by eliminating an answer that you know for sure is wrong, and then make an educated guess between the remaining two choices. You have a 50% chance of being right. And don't worry, wrong answers aren't penalized in the IELTS listening. So it's always worth having a go. Finally, don't get disheartened if you get totally lost and mess up your answer. It can happen to anyone. Refocus, move on, and start implementing your test strategies on the next question. Start underlining key words and predicting missing words, and get yourself back into the flow of the test. Okay, so we've looked at things you can do in the test that will help you identify the answers that you're looking for. But what about before we even get to the test? What can you do today to improve your listening skills? Here are some helpful tips and tricks I've used with my students over the years. Improve your listening. 1, immersion. Immerse yourself in English with podcasts, radio shows, and news reports that discuss everyday topics. They can be graded or slightly above your level. Aim to pick out key points and the main message. Over time, you'll train your ear to pick up all kinds of things like connected speech, stress, intonation, and the melody of English. Do you remember earlier we talked about how focusing on English speech for long periods of time can be really challenging? Well, immersion is a great way to build up your stamina. Think of it as training your ear, just like you would train any muscle. I often equate learning English to running a marathon. You don't just go out one day and run 26 miles, do you? Well, at least I certainly don't. Instead, you start by just doing 1 mile and then slowly building up over time. Well, in the same way, don't start listening for 40 minutes of English and expect to understand everything. Instead, start with 30 seconds or 1 minute and build up the length of English speech that you consume gradually. As I said, things like podcasts or long-form conversations on YouTube or radio are fantastic resources for this. Improve your listening too. Listen to audio at different speeds. Over the years, one of the biggest issues my learners have faced is feeling like proficient English speakers speak too quickly. That's certainly a problem I've encountered when learning other languages. So, how can we deal with this issue? Well, one way is to build up your ability to understand the natural pace of English by starting slowly. Many online platforms allow you to slow down audio, making it easier for you to identify different sounds in spoken English. You'll hear how words blend together, how sounds are omitted, how contractions are used, and how stress can play an important role in conveying meaning. This technique is particularly useful for lower level students who are trying to develop their confidence, but it can also apply to higher levels too. Obviously, we can't only consume slowed down content, so over time, build up the speed as you get more familiar with consuming English speech. I would even recommend using one piece of audio and listening to it multiple times at different speeds until you get the natural pace. Experiment with it and see how you go. Again, we can't be expected to run a marathon or lift heavy weights on day 1. Start slowly and build up your listening skills over time. Improve your listening. 3, use captions or transcripts. If you're struggling to understand spoken English, it might be a good idea to start listening to English with captions turned on. One technique I like to use with my students is to get them to listen once without captions to get an overall understanding, and then to listen a second time with captions turned on so they can check what they've understood. You can then go further and start matching the sounds of the words to their written form. So for example, a word like for in its weakest form would be f, and perhaps you missed it because of that. Using captions is useful even at higher levels, but of course, our aim is to feel comfortable listening to English without them. Having said that, I sometimes use them myself when watching a show just to make sure I catch absolutely everything. Improve your listening. 4, listen to a variety of English accents. In the IELTS test, it's possible to hear speakers with British, Australian, New Zealand, and North American accents. So it's important to expose yourself to a wide variety of English accents. It's also about training your ear to identify how certain accents will say certain words, so you don't miss any key information. So for example, bottle in British English is bottle in American English, and water in British English might be water in American English. Even within Britain and North America, there are variations on how you would say these words. Don't worry too much about studying every accent, but over time, make a deliberate effort to become familiar with a variety of accents by listening to podcasts, watching TV shows, and consuming social media content. Slowly, over time, you'll pick up subtle differences and variations. Have you got any tips for improving your listening skills? We'd love you to share them in the comments below and tell us which of these tips are you going to use in the future. And if you'd like to know more about the topics you'll hear in the IELTS listening section and do a practice test, check out this video with Claire. Before you go, subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any of our future IELTS preparation videos. Thanks for watching and good luck with your listening test.
Insurance feels better when you've just used Confused.com.
You will hear a conversation between an assistant at a health club and a man who wants to join the club. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hi, can I help you?
Hello. Yes, is your club taking on new members at the moment?
Oh, yes. We're always interested in taking on new members. Just give me a moment and I'll get an application form. Right, here we are. So, let's start with your name.
It's Harry.
Okay. And your surname?
It's Simons.
Is that like Simon with an S?
No, it's Symonds. Most people find it rather difficult to spell.
I see. It has a silent D. I guess a lot of people miss that. Now, let me see. Can you tell me when you were born?
Yes, certainly. The 11th of December.
Thanks. And the year?
1996.
Okay, good. Now, are you thinking of becoming a full-time member?
Probably not. What kind of memberships do you have?
Well, we also have off-peak membership, which is between 9 and 12 in the morning and 2 and 5 in the afternoon. And then we do have a weekend membership.
So a weekend membership is just Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, that's right.
OK. Well, that's not going to work for me. It looks like I'll have to be full-time. I'm afraid off-peak membership won't do, as I'm not free at those times, and I don't just want to be restricted to weekends.
OK, I'll make a note of that. Right, we have several facilities at the club, including a gym, a swimming pool, tennis and squash courts. What activities are you planning on doing?
Well, do you have badminton?
Yes, we do.
And table tennis?
I'm afraid not. Well, not at the moment, anyway.
Oh, OK. Well, I'm also very keen on swimming, so I'm glad you have a pool. I'll certainly be doing a lot of that.
OK, I've got that.
Will you be using the gym?
No, I'm not interested in that.
OK. So just let me work out what the cost will be. Yes, that comes to £450 for the year. You can choose to pay annually for the full year or monthly. It's up to you.
Oh, I'd prefer to pay regularly in small amounts, rather than have a large amount to pay in one go, if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine. Right, I've got the most important details for now.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you will have some time to look at the questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
So, I'd just like to ask you a few questions about your lifestyle, if that's okay with you.
Yes, that's fine.
Do you do any regular exercise at the moment?
Yes, I do a bit.
Good. And what do you do?
Well, every few days I go jogging.
Yes, that's good. How long do you go for?
Well, it varies. I guess it depends on how energetic I'm feeling.
Yes, of course. Every little bit helps. Do you have any injuries at the moment?
Well, I did break a bone in my foot playing football a long time ago, but that's all healed up now. But in the last few days, I've realised I have a bad ankle. I think I must have injured it last week, and it's a bit sore now. But apart from that, I'm fine.
Right. I guess you might need to rest it for a few days to let it recover.
Yes, I will.
So, let me just ask you what you want to achieve by joining the club. Do you have any targets or goals?
Well, I suppose my main aim is to build up my fitness level. Is that the kind of thing you mean?
Yes, that's fine. All the activities you're going to be doing should certainly help you with that.
Okay.
And could you tell me what you do for a living?
Well, I was a student up until recently.
OK. So what are you doing at the moment?
Well, I'm a charity worker.
Oh, that's fine. I'll write that down. OK, nearly done. One last question. Can I ask how you heard about the club? Did you see it advertised or did you go to our website, for example?
Well, I've been looking for a health club for a while, and I asked my friends for suggestions, but they weren't much help. And then I was listening to the radio, and your club was mentioned. So I thought, I'll go along and see what it's like.
Great. Well, we look forward to having you as a member.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2. You will hear a hotel manager talking to her staff about the arrangements for an event to be held at the weekend.
First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all feeling okay after the activities of the last week or so. I know you've all been working very hard recently, and we've been exceptionally busy, especially with the wedding last weekend and the trade fair straight after that. And now we have only 3 days to prepare for the birthday party this weekend. The events recently have gone extremely well, and the hotel is beginning to get a very good reputation, so we need to keep it up. At the moment, we don't have exact numbers of guests, and though we usually only cater for groups of less than 50, we will have quite a few more than that. So, as I said, not sure of numbers, but of course we won't go over the maximum of 100. But it's likely that we will need all of you to work this weekend, so if any of you can't, please let me know as soon as possible. Right, so what time will the event start? Well, the invitation says guests should arrive between 7:30 and 7:45, but our experience is that there are always a few who like to arrive early, so we'll expect the first people at 7:15. As the numbers are quite large, this will certainly be the case. Food will be served at around 8:30, and then, depending on how long the meal takes, the entertainment will start about 2 hours later. Now, for this, we were expecting a live band for the occasion, which is always fun. But apparently this has been cancelled due to illness. So, the hosts know someone who is a comedian who will be replacing the band. We had hoped that the resident magician who worked here through the summer would be able to help out, but they weren't keen on that idea.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
So, I'd just like to go through who's doing what when the guests arrive, and I think we'll make a few changes from the last party held here. If I remember correctly, it was Olav who coordinated the task of providing the guests with drinks. Or was it Ahmed? I'm not sure, but Gary asked to do it this time, so that will be his job. There's been no decision yet on what the drinks are going to be, but I hope they decide soon in case we need to order something special. Now, for receiving the guests' coats and hats, it's important we have someone experienced doing this, as we don't want guests losing their belongings. And Monica, last time this was your responsibility. Susan, I know you wanted to do this, but as the numbers are quite high for this event, I won't make a change here. Right. Now, last time there was some confusion as to where guests were supposed to go once they had deposited their things, and we had guests roaming around the whole hotel. So, Ahmed and Olav, I believe you discussed the problems with Susan and thought she would be good at guiding guests after they had arrived. And I'm fine with that. Right, and now for some general instructions. Once the guests have arrived, they will be in and around the lounge area, and then at around 8:30, we need to get them to move to the restaurant for their meal. This often proves difficult and can take a long time, so I will ring a bell so that everyone knows it's time to eat. Hopefully, this will speed things up a bit. Also, for this event, there'll be a seating plan, so the guests won't be able to decide for themselves where to sit. They'll have to sit according to the plan. There will be a plan on each table, and I've been thinking about where to put the master plan so everyone can view it before they enter the restaurant. As they'll be spending quite a while in the lounge, I've decided to also put a plan there. This should speed up the start of the meal. Once the meal starts, you'll all be very busy waiting on the tables, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you to be good-humoured and polite to all the guests. The organiser of the event will be saying a few words, and so will two of his colleagues. So, when the speeches start, all activity must stop in the restaurant, so that the 3 people giving them can be heard. This shouldn't take long, and it should be towards the end of the meal. After that, the guests will move back to the lounge for the entertainment. So, I think that's it. Any questions? Come and see me later.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. You will hear 2 students discussing an assignment. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25.
Now listen and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, Melanie. What did you think of the assignment that we got today? It looks interesting, doesn't it?
Yes, Ellen. I've always been interested in recycling, but there's a lot of research to do.
Yes, there are a lot of things I'm unsure of, so it's going to be good working with you.
OK. Well, why don't we start by making a flowchart from the notes our tutor gave us?
Yes. So, on one side we could have the paper production cycle, here on the left, and on the other side the recycling.
Good idea. Let's start at the top with the production. The first step in the process is to get the raw materials.
Yes, and they tend to come from pine forests.
OK. And then the bark is removed from the outside of the tree, and after that, the wood is chopped up. That's the first 3 stages.
It sounds a bit complicated after that. It says water is added, and then the mixture is heated and made into pulp. This will be the thick paste that is used to make paper.
Yes, you're right, because after that they use a machine to make the paper, and we can put that right in the centre of the flowchart, because it's also where the recycled paper joins the process.
Yes. So, once the paper has been produced in the machine, what happens then?
Well, I think we should write print as the next step, because this is when newspapers, magazines, etc. are produced. And we could also add that they have to be distributed to stores and people's homes.
Right. Then the recycling bit starts. The old paper's collected, and then it says it's taken somewhere so that someone or something can sort it. I imagine there are different kinds of paper, or things like paper clips that need to be removed.
Yes. Let's have a step after that. Now, how did our tutor say they do this? Oh yes, it involves chemicals. So, how is your chemistry?
Well, not very good, I'm afraid. But this is how they remove ink. So, this is definitely going to need a bit of research.
Right. The last step in the recycling section is similar to the last step in the production process, with heating and pulping, before the cycle begins again.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30.
Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
So, I think going through the processes helped. Now we need to decide how we're going to do this assignment.
Yes. I guess what we need to do is take the processes and divide them up between us. But we could start thinking about an introduction.
Yes, okay. Well, I can start doing that. I think I have enough to go on already.
Good. And there are a few areas where we need a lot more information. I think I'll start with something easy. Let's say the paper collection. I could go to the resource centre to do some research.
Well, I think a better idea would be to approach someone who's involved in the process. What about contacting the council?
Oh, good idea. Yes, I'll do that instead. They're bound to have some information. And I know just the thing to add to our work to make it even more interesting.
And what's that?
Well, in my last assignment, I added a few pictures, and the feedback I got was that this wasn't academic enough. So what might really bring it to life would be to include some data, provided we can find some.
Yes, that sounds excellent. Well, we certainly have a lot to do, and not much time to do it in.
You're right. I think we have about 5 weeks, so I suggest we create a plan of work today. The end of the month is nearly 3 weeks away, and then we have a few days holiday.
Yes, so let's see if we can get the first draft done by then, so we can take a short break.
OK. Then after the break, we'll have just over a week to complete it. I wonder if we could get someone to review our work for us a few days before the deadline, so we can make some final changes. What about your friend, Henry?
Well, the best person would be our tutor. Henry's very good, but he's taking a whole week's holiday, and there won't be enough time when he returns.
OK then, that's fine.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. You will hear a lecture about hair. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, and welcome to this lecture on hair, which is a part of the human biology course. This lecture covers a number of facts about hair, its structure, and what can affect the general health of hair. So, first of all, what is hair, and why do we have it? If we look back at our ancestors, we'll see that they had a lot more hair on their bodies than we do now. And there are, or were, 2 main reasons for having hair. One is to provide warmth, but as humans have worn clothes for many years, body hair has significantly reduced. The other is for protection. And again, this isn't as significant as it was once. But hair does still benefit areas of the body, such as the head and around the eyes. Now, hair, whatever it is for and wherever it is on the human body, is composed mainly of a protein called keratin. This, by the way, is also found in fingernails. In fact, it's keratin which makes them flexible, and without it they would be very rigid. Another interesting fact about hair is that it is very strong as iron, in fact. One single strand can support a weight of up to 100 grams. This may not sound all that much, but a full head of hair can support up to 12 tons, which is the equivalent of a couple of elephants, which is simply amazing. Though I advise you not to put this to the test. Humans lose up to 100 strands of hair a day, but we do have quite a lot of hair to start with. There's some variation depending on hair color, but for an average adult, the strand count is 100,000, so losing 100 a day is not too bad. Although this is the average, people with red hair have around 80,000 strands, black or brown hair 100,000, and blondes have about 120,000. So, hair used to be important for the reasons I mentioned earlier, but nowadays I'd say the main importance of hair is the fact that it is big business. Apart from the money involved in hair cutting, shaving, trimming, etc., a fortune is spent just on hair products. In the UK alone, consumers spend over £5 billion each year on these. So next, I'd like to just give you a quick overview of the structure of hair. As you can see, along the length of the hair, there are three main parts, called the bulb, the root, and the shaft. A single hair is fixed at one end below the skin in the bulb. The bulb acts rather like a cap. It encloses the end of the hair in the head. The next part of the hair is the root, and this is the part of the hair which lies just beneath the skin, and, in terms of hair production, is the most important. This can be considered the control center for each strand of hair, and is where the glands are found. These produce oil, which flows along the length of the hair, and the health of the root determines the overall health of the strand of hair. The last part is the shaft, and this is the hair which is above the skin, and is, of course, what we can see. Fortunately, this is not active, and I say fortunately because otherwise it would be very painful to have your hair cut. And finally, I'd just like to go over a few factors that impact on the overall health of hair. Like every other part of the body, our diet, that is, what we eat, is extremely important to the condition of our hair. But whereas a change in your diet to, for example, eating unhealthy foods will soon be noticeable in your skin, changes to your hair will take a lot longer. A change in diet today could take several months to have an effect on your hair. And so, what is the key to healthy hair? Well, eating a balanced diet is the most important thing. There are a number of vitamins that are vital for good hair health. The main ones being vitamins C, D, and E. And in a balanced diet, all these vitamins should be readily available. If you need a boost of vitamin C, for example, one of the best things to eat are blueberries. For vitamin D, the best examples are fish, mushrooms, and eggs. And for vitamin E, nuts and seeds. Right. So let's go on to what it...
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Section 1. You will hear a young student, Andrew, ringing an employment agency inquiring about their
What if I told you that 95% of IELTS students are preparing completely wrong for the IELTS listening test? They practice for hours, they memorize vocabulary, they do mock test after mock test, and they still fail. But Band 9 students that we work with, they don't have better English than you. They don't have secret hacks or shortcuts. They understand things about the listening test format that others don't. So today I'll show you exactly what they know and how they use this information to prepare differently for the test. But first, let me show you the biggest misconception that keeps most students stuck at a low level. The test has 40 questions split across 4 parts of the listening test. And Band 9 students know something crucial. These parts aren't random. They follow a specific difficulty curve that you can use to your advantage. Parts 1 and 2 are deliberately easier. But parts 3 and 4, this is where the real game begins. This is where Band 7 students hit a wall, while Band 9 students shine. And the difference isn't natural ability, it's preparation strategy that anyone can copy. So during their preparation, Band 9 students will spend about 20% of their practice time on parts 1 and 2, just maintaining that high level they already have. 80% of their practice time in preparation will be on parts 3 and 4. Most students do the opposite. They practice all parts equally, wasting precious time on easier sections while neglecting the parts that actually determine their final score. But knowing the format isn't enough. They understand the specific personality of each section and train accordingly. Part 1 seems simple. It's normally 2 people talking, usually on the phone, exchanging basic information like phone numbers or dates. But here's what catches most students. This isn't how we normally listen to English. When was the last time you intensely focused on someone spelling out a license plate number or a phone number? Band 9 students know this is an artificial listening situation. So instead of practicing general listening to podcasts and things like that, they specifically train for form-filling scenarios using the official Cambridge test. They become machines at catching numbers, addresses, and spelled out information so that when it comes up, they can do it automatically. Part 2 then shifts to one person talking about a social topic. Most students think, great, this is like real life. But Band 9 students recognize this trap. In real conversations, you can ask for clarification. You can ask, what do you mean? Here you only get one shot. They won't repeat things. So the Band 9 students' secret weapon is they listen to solo podcasts and YouTube channels, but not IELTS content because, let's be honest, IELTS is extremely boring. They choose topics they love, turning their commute or their lunch break into stealth IELTS preparation. In part 3, this is where the test starts to get serious. Multiple speakers in an academic setting, often interrupting each other, agreeing, disagreeing, building on points. Most students panic here because they can't tell who's saying what and they kind of get lost. Band 9 students prepare for this part differently. They seek out debate podcasts with maybe 3 or 4 speakers discussing different academic topics. They don't just listen for information. They train their ears to differentiate between different voices, catch interruptions, and follow the flow of academic discussion. Part 4 is the most difficult. It's the final boss. It's a single academic speaker delivering complex information, normally a university-style lecture. While others struggle to follow the logic, Band 9 students have a secret weapon, TED Talks. But they don't just passively listen to TED Talks. They actively analyze how speakers structure their talks, listening for transition words like firstly, however, in conclusion. And they understand that academic speakers signpost each of their moves, and they've trained their ears to catch these signals. But here's the thing. Knowing what to practice means nothing if you don't understand the types of questions you'll face. There are over 10 different question types in IELTS listening. Most students have just one strategy for all of them. That's like using a hammer for every home repair. Sometimes you need a hammer, other times you need a screwdriver, other times you might need a drill. Band 9 students understand each question type tests a different IELTS listening skill. For example, multiple choice tests prediction and elimination. Map labeling tests spatial understanding and listening while thinking of other things at the same time, directions. And summary completion tests note-taking ability. They don't just practice questions, they develop specific strategies for each type. But don't worry, I've put all of these question types and a summary of the main strategies for each question type inside this helpful PDF for you. If you want this, all you have to do is just go to the description, click the link, and you can download it for free. Every single question type and full strategies for all of them. Now, this next tip might sound simple, but it's responsible for more lost marks than any other factor. This might be the most overlooked aspect of the listening test. You must maintain laser focus on the listening for 30 continuous minutes. For many of the Band 9 students that we worked with, there wasn't any problem with their listening skills or their English. It really came down to improving their focus. Imagine running a marathon without doing any training. Imagine you're very unfit like I am. That's what most students do with their listening stamina. Band 9 students use what I call the marathon method. They don't try and listen for 30 minutes on day one. Instead, maybe week 1, they just try and focus for 5 minutes. And then week 2, 10 minutes, week 3, 15, week 4, 20, and week 5, a 30-minute full practice session. Just like training for a real marathon, they build up their listening muscle gradually. They use a timer, stay completely focused, and resist the urge to check their phone or let their mind wander. And the result is, on test day, 30 minutes feels easy, while other students are mentally exhausted and completely losing track. But even with perfect stamina, there's one brutal reality that destroys most students' scores. I want you to think back to when you were learning English in a classroom and you were practicing listening. The teacher probably repeated the recordings 2 or 3 times. They want students to feel like they're making progress. But this is like a parent always letting their child win at games. It feels good, everyone's happy, but it doesn't prepare them for reality. On test day, you will only hear things once, like in real life. Your university professor won't repeat themselves. Your boss probably won't repeat instructions. The airport announcement won't say the gate multiple times. They expect you to hear it first time. So Band 9 students train like this. When practicing with podcasts or YouTube videos, they never replay immediately. They listen once, answer questions, and then check. This builds the mental discipline and muscle to catch information first time. Most students complain and find this uncomfortable at first. Good. Discomfort means that it is working. It means that you are getting better. And it means on test day, you're going to feel less uncomfortable. Now, what I'm about to share might seem like it won't make any difference, but Band 9 students have reported that it makes a big difference to them, and it can often mean the difference between success and failure. This might seem simple and obvious, but Band 9 students know something most others overlook. Audio quality can make or break your score. You'll either get headphones or hear the test through speakers in a crowded room. The students that we work with will specifically book computer-based tests to guarantee headphones. Why? It's not just about volume, it's about blocking out distractions like other people coughing or the noises around you. And it delivers clearer sound directly to your ears. And it helps you maintain focus for those 30 minutes because you're more locked in. It can also reduce mental fatigue from straining to hear if it's in a big room with no headphones. If computer-based testing isn't available in your area, our Band 9 students have called the test centers to ask about the audio setup and the quality. They choose centers with the best equipment. And if the audio quality is poor on test day, they complain immediately, not after getting a low score. Really, really important. If the audio is terrible on test day, don't walk out of the test center and start complaining online to random strangers. Complain immediately after the test and get your money back, or get them to book you another test for free. But only if the audio quality was actually terrible, not because you didn't prepare properly and you just messed everything up. And this brings us to our final tip that ties everything together. The IELTS listening test and the reading test are a little bit different. Unlike the reading test, where you control the pace, you decide how quickly you go, the listening test controls you. There are no time management tricks, no shortcuts, no hacks. Band 9 students understand this brutal truth and they embrace it. Instead of looking for timing strategies, they work on becoming better at listening to English. They perfect their question strategies, which you can download here. And they build their stamina. They know the test format inside out. When you do all of this, you don't need time management. You flow with the test naturally. But here's the ultimate Band 9 advantage, the one that makes everything else easier. The listening test uses artificially clear English. Speakers talk slowly, like I'm doing right now. They pronounce everything clearly and they pause between ideas. It's not like a real native speaker conversation. I don't speak like this to my friends. Band 9 students exploit this by training with harder material. They listen to natural speed podcasts where people interrupt each other, mumble, speak quickly. They watch movies without subtitles, and they tune into live radio debates. They do everything they can to listen to real native English speakers talking naturally, not listening to someone like me speaking very slowly. The way I describe it is like a marathon runner. A marathon runner will train at very high altitude where there's not as much oxygen. They will deliberately train in more difficult conditions. And then on race day, at sea level, where it's much easier, everything becomes simple and easy to do. So I know the temptation is to listen to IELTS videos where people are speaking very clearly and slowly. Don't do that. Try and build up and listen to more and more natural native conversations. Make it as difficult as possible over time. And then test day, it's easy. But here's the brutal truth. While you've been watching this video, someone has downloaded these. They are studying them, they are taking action, they are mastering them. Watching videos is not taking action. Practicing these strategies, mastering them, applying them to practice tests and improving and actually doing the work, that is action. Those people will get the scores that they need, get a band 9, move on with their lives and live in the country of their dreams. Don't watch another video and then complain later, oh, it was difficult and I got lost. If someone is giving you exactly how to get a high score and you don't take that, then that's on you. Every day you delay is another day closer to your next failed attempt, another test fee, another visa deadline missed, another throwing away money by not being in the country of your dreams. But in 5 minutes tonight, you can start building your band 9 listening muscle. Question isn't whether these strategies work. Thousands of band 9 students have proven they do. Question is, will you be telling your success story in a few weeks? Or will you be stuck watching more and more YouTube videos, hoping that you magically get lucky next time? Download the PDF, set your timer, do just 5 minutes tonight, and your band 9 journey starts there. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. But if you want our one-on-one help, click below and see if any VIP courses are available. We will guide you step by step, hold your hand, and show you exactly what to do to get a band 9. And one last thing band 9 students do is they prepare for the test strategically by pinpointing their weak areas and then turning those weak areas into strengths. Imagine walking into the test knowing you are guaranteed a band 9 because you've eliminated every possible risk by understanding exactly where you could go wrong and removing any weaknesses. This video shows you exactly how to perform that strategy on your own listening ability right now. It's 100% free. Check it out. It will save you a huge amount of time and money.
You probably think Squarespace is just for websites, but you can also get a domain from Squarespace. Something like topfootballcamp.com for your football camp. Rugby.
Hi there, it's Asia. How can you understand 100% of IELTS listening? Today I want to share with you some techniques that I used to develop my listening skills when I was learning English. And I believe they helped me greatly because the first time I took the exam, my overall score was 7.5, but my listening score was 9. Okay, let's get started. I call the first method listen, read, listen. So you need to find a short audio in English, about 3 minutes, and its transcript, the written text. So first of all, you listen to the recording once or twice, and you try to understand as much as you can. Then you take the transcript and you listen to the recording again while following what's been said on paper or on the screen. If a certain moment is difficult for you, please pause the recording, listen to it again. If you can't guess the meaning of a certain word from the context, you can check it up in the dictionary. Once you've done that, listen to the recording again without the transcript. And only use it if you encounter a moment where you still don't understand what's been said. Then find the transcript, read that bit, and listen to it again. And do that until you understand everything in the recording. What should you listen to? Well, if you have the official practice test from Cambridge English, I mean a book like that, then after you've taken the practice test, you can use the audio and the transcript in the book to practice. Also on YouTube, there is a channel BBC Learning English, and they have a great playlist with 3-minute news. And the transcript is written on the screen. So if you don't need it, just don't look at the screen. The second technique is to play with speed. Take a short audio and listen to it at the normal speed. And then slow it down to 0.75 or even 0.5. And suddenly you'll be able to understand much more. And then listen to it again at the normal speed and you will still be able to hear things. And after that, try to accelerate it to 0.25. They'll be speaking really fast, but you will still hear everything. This technique will really help your ears to get used to faster speech. Basically, it really matters how much time you spend listening to things in English. And I think you can spend at least an hour a day listening to English without changing anything in your routine. Do you know how? By turning boring time into listening time. When you are commuting to work or studies, when you are cooking food or waiting for someone, you could listen to an audiobook in English. For years, I thought I don't have any time to read entertaining books. But actually, I can listen to 2 books a month. So all the books you can see are what I've listened to since mid-October. That's when I discovered Audible. When you join, you get 1 book for free. And then you need to start paying monthly fee. It varies from country to country, and it includes 1 book a month. If you decide to cancel your subscription before the first payment is due, you can still keep your free audiobook. And if you decide to join Audible, please use the link in the description box below. It will allow me to earn a small commission. I'm gonna leave some recommendations for you too. 2 entertaining books and 2 self-development books read with British and American accents. Thank you for watching me today. Good luck with your preparation and your exam. IELTS listening is the best section to boost your overall score. Here are my tips. Sometimes there's a lot of information to grasp, like when you have a map, follow the question numbers. Similarly, if you see a box with options, follow the questions underneath. It's definitely easier to answer questions if you read them before the recording begins. The test doesn't allow enough time for that. However, after each section, you get 30 seconds to review your answers. Better read the questions coming next. Familiarize yourself with different accents. Practice listening to English speakers from the UK and the USA in particular. This will boost your understanding during the test. Choose the test center that provides headphones. They will sharpen your ability to catch every detail. IELTS listening tips. Answer 30 questions for Band 7 and 35 for Band 8. This test is so difficult because you need to listen, read and write at the same time. To avoid this, use the time for instructions and revision to read the coming questions. Then you just need to listen and write, which is much easier. Identify keywords. They will help you concentrate. Each option is only discussed once. The answer won't change. Once you hear it, move on to the next question. Spelling counts. You can use British or American English. The spelling of names is usually unexpected. Listen carefully. And don't forget that you get 10 minutes at the end of the paper-based test, but only 2 minutes in a computer-based exam.
Hi, everyone. I hope that was useful. Again, as you can tell, it's quite cold. So quickly, any questions, please, because I'm going out to watch the Liverpool football match. But please feel free either to type in the chat or to ask now. No, you're all being good to me. And you're saving your questions for tomorrow when there is no Liverpool. All right. Well, thank you for joining. I hope it was useful. 3 o'clock tomorrow is the next session. Hope to see you all then. Thank you.
Hello, hey, sorry guys, I want to ask you something. Hello? You can hear me? Because on this video, I can't see anything. Even these videos, there's nothing. You were just seeing blanket things. Maybe on their things or it's my phone. I'm asking something. Can you hear me? Hello?
Go ahead and ask.
Yes, I was asking on the screen, are you seeing something? Are you seeing something on this screen when he's sharing this lecture, or it's my phone? Because sometimes it's coming blank.
Mzee, what are you talking about?
I'm asking when they are like showing the videos, are you seeing on your screens the videos, or it's black while you're
Asking who?
hearing only?
You're asking. You're asking who?
I'm asking to your side. Are you seeing something on your screen?
The meeting is over.
Yes.
Yes, we see something. You can check your phone, it's clear. Mzee, you are sleeping, eh? You're a backbencher. Where were you, Mzee? Explain yourself.